Good morning, viewer. Corey here. Today is Sunday the 27th, and right now it is 11:07 in the morning. We just got back a little bit ago from the gym. We really can't wait till next week, because then we'll be able to go back to the 24-hour fitness that we've missed going to so much. Ever since I stopped going to ever since I was trying to do my own business for a little bit, it's already been a couple months ago since then, I put a freeze on my 24-hour account to help me save a little bit of money and invest more in my business. That was already 2 months ago, and I've been going to Planet Fitness this whole time as like what do you say, backup gym, I guess. And there's nothing wrong with Planet Fitness. It's a good place. It's still got the machines. You can still get a good workout, but it's definitely nothing like 24. They only have Smith machines. 24 has a lot more free weight. 24 has a lot more weight in general. There's only so much room. Oh, any gym, there's only so much room in the gym, but even there's just a lot more variety that could happen in a gym like 24 compared to Planet Fitness. So yeah, we just came back from the gym. We haven't eaten yet. We took a little bit of supplement protein. Our food's ready, but we're not gonna eat it yet because we want to make this video first. Because every time I eat before I make a video, I end up letting out a little bit of flatulence, and I don't need to be burping this time, or I don't want to be. For today's video, we're gonna go ahead and go over our next part in the Master Key system, and it's gonna be part 21. Before we get started, I do have a little bit of Bible verses that I want to go over with you guys. It kind of connects with everything we've been learning from this book. There's also something I really want to share before we do get started. And I don't remember if it was in one of my Master Key System videos or if it was my when I was making a video for you, but I was talking about mind and spirit. And after a while, in this book, I found that in a lot of the self-development books I read, when they talk about God and consciousness and things like that, they use the term universal mind, with the capital N. And universal mind is supposed to be the same thing as the universal spirit or universal consciousness. And in other books that I read, it talks about the Spirit of God. It's pranic energy. You breathe it in. You breathe in the Spirit, and it vitalizes your entire life and gives you life in your body and things like that. And the other day, when I was on my way home from the gym, it was in the morning, and I had gone maybe about the entire week not really reading too much, not really listening to a whole lot of audios, just living out my life, just my day-to-day life, just experiencing things as it is, without trying to look up something to read or finding something new. Like all last week, I just I don't know, lived, I guess you could say. I don't want to say lived, because we're living every day, but the fact that I didn't, I stepped away from this for a while, and actually, it gave me good clarity that the mind and spirit cannot be the same thing. It can't be, because and he talks about it in chapter 4 as well, that in section 4 of this book, that we're all spiritual beings, and this I of us, is who we really are. We're going to talk a little bit about this I, on who we are. But even in section 4, he talks about, how we're all spiritual beings. We have a mind. When we think, we tell the mind what to think. When we decide to go somewhere, we're telling the body where to go. It's this I of us, this spiritual part of who we are, our awareness, our own very existence, is what's telling ourselves what to do. And for a while, I even thought Charles F. Haanel might have, been, like from the way I took with the universal mind, since they're using that name to be the same thing as spirit. They're using that name to identify it as spirit, but yet it's not the same thing. It's mind is the energy of which our system of nerves uses. Like our mind is continuously being created and recreated, but God is forever, the truth. Truth is that which is unchangeable. It cannot change. It's something that always is. And the mind is always something that's creating and recreating itself and changing itself over time. We grow in mind. We learn more. We become better at things. We mature a lot as a consciousness. It's our own individual spark of just who we are, living out life. And basically, like, the whole moral of the story is just me going back to, when I actually took a step away from all of this and just went within myself for the time being. And I know I would talk about that a lot too, going within yourself and meditating and things like that, and studying yourself. Like, how do you feel when you think this way? And then when you change your thoughts to thinking this way, how does it make you feel then? Like things like that, like really delving into your mental world and how to use your mental powers in the, I don't want to say in the right way, but in a way where it's always leading you on to something better. Because we know once we start, like, I know I've mentioned this plenty of times, like, say if you're in a state of frustration, and Wallace D. Wattles talks about it, once you're frustrated, everything bends to that state of mind that you're in. And since everything bends to that state of mind that you are in, whether you're happy, sad, all this really has a lot to do with the way you are thinking. And once you get a hold of thinking how you want to think, when you get a hold of controlling this mind that you have, because just the way our mind functions, our mind is always looking for something to analyze. Our mind is always looking for something to learn with. Our mind is always looking for something to put our own imagination towards, to be doing something with it. The mind has that function to always want to be doing something. And yeah, that's kind of just what I really wanted to share really quick. Just the fact that, after reading this so long, and some of the phrases that he uses and some of the phrases that a lot of people use in their other books, the universal mind and the universal spirit are the same thing, but yet mind and spirit are not the same thing. Yeah, I know. It was a little confusing for me at first, and it still does sometimes, but whatever happens, always, listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. Because you know within yourself. So with all that being said, okay, we're going to start our part 21 from our lovely book, Master Key, but before then we're going to review part 20. Okay, well, we read 2 weeks ago. It's been 2 weeks since we made our last video. We still have our last 4 sessions, the last 4 weeks of this year. It's still my goal to finish this book before the end of December. I know if I start this week and continue on from here, I'll be able to make it. But if I miss a Sunday, then I'm not going to be able to make it. So that's our goal. And I was even there's a lot that I want to go over, but just so much time. Yeah, with all that being said, let's just go ahead and continue. Let's go ahead and knock this video out. And we'll save all this for another time, and we can talk about it in other videos. Just throw a little bit in there. So, in our last section, okay, for section 20, he talks about how we were created in the image and likeness of God, and that image is in the image of spirit. You know how we were mentioning earlier about the I of who we are. That's where this I comes into play. This I am that I am. We think, therefore we are. I know you've heard that saying before. How did it go? I think, therefore I am. That was a saying. I don't remember who said it, but I've heard it before. I think, therefore I am. I have this scripture right here from Exodus 3:15 that, I am that I am. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Exodus 3:15, and that was what God had told Moses when Moses came across the burning bush. God told Moses that I am that I am. I simply am. We all simply are. We were just talking about we are that I am of the I am that I am. We are consciousness. And the thing with this and what's really interesting about that, since we're learning all this information about the power of our thought, the power of our emotions, the principles of vibrations and the universal laws and how these things work, and when it comes to moving back to our own being, our own existence, this I am is just something that we are. When we decide to be whoever we want to be, remember, there is only one substance from which all things have proceeded from, this spiritual energy, the spiritual essence that has given life to all life. We were created in the image of the Spirit, and the only activity which the Spirit has is the ability to think, and we've learned that thought is a creative vibration. Thought is, a vibration which creates other vibrations. It's very, very intriguing. Like that happens, and that happens through our own individual spark of consciousness, our own personal system of vibrations. And we learn that mind is a system of vibrations, or even the spirit. The anatomy of the spirit, I haven't read it yet, but I've read a little bit of the Wheels of Life. That's the next book that we're going to be going over after we finish our lovely book, You. But aside from all that, let's try to stay focused on where we are. Okay, this I am of who we are is that thing that is simply, when we don't think, when we don't do anything, we just simply be still and go within ourselves. That's when we find who we are, when we're in the stillness. And okay, for the next one, okay, here's another quote by Luke 17:21, and it says, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." Hold on, let me read the first one first, okay? The one I wrote on top of it. Okay, I have these three. Okay, I have one from John, one from Luke, and one from Exodus. Okay, so John 3:27, it says, and I kind of got this from Neville Goddard when I was listening to one of his audios, and he says, "A man can receive nothing unless it is given to him from heaven." And that is John 3:27. And then it goes into saying, "And the kingdom of heaven is within you." And that is Luke 17:21. And then we're learning on how everything that comes in the external world through the law of cause and effect must first happen within you, within your own personal kingdom, within your own heaven, your world of thoughts and moods and feelings. And whatever you're feeling inside of you, you're gonna find they're gonna find expressions and channels to express themselves outside of you. And, yeah, that's basically that's the whole get-go of what section 20 was about. Just how we're made in the image of God, and we have the ability to create our life, through the universal principles and basically the rules, I guess you could say, which God has given us. And it's very funny because I really want to talk about this really quick. Me and my brother were up in the mountains the other day, and we were talking about the conscious and subconscious mind, and the brain and cerebral spinal and the sympathetic nervous system and the solar plexus of nerves, and which is what we've learned about in here. And we've also learned a lot about how people say that matter, the external world is nothing but an illusion. It is, but it's not. It's something that's there. I'm pretty sure I'm touching this wall, and I'm pretty sure I can't just walk right through it. It's something that's there. It's part of the material world, which we are a part of. So we can't just dismiss the external world like that. And yes, it's like an illusion because it's an expression of something else, but at the same time it's not an illusion because it's only the other half of something else. We go into talking about the 5 physical senses of the conscious mind, that we can't rely on the conscious mind because it's only seeing so much of what's happening around us. We need to rely more on our subconscious and the universal spirit for our information and what we've learned. Because we can't always depend on what we see, because we know that we can only see the effects of things, which is why we're talking about the conscious and subconscious. And the conscious mind we perceive through our eyes, our hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, and feeling. Or seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and smelling, hearing, tasting, touching, and seeing. There we go. I was wondering. Anyway, so the things you see with the conscious portion of the mind is an extension of this one basic energy. I'm going to go over a little bit more with and this video is probably going to be pretty long, but it's okay though, because we're going over great information, things that very, very vital to learn and to stay connected with everything in here. So with we're still reading our book You. We're on section 14, which is on magnetism. We just gone over the emotions. But in You, he talks about these energies and vibrations, and how the sun is nothing but an electromagnetic ball of plasma. The sun only gives off energy. The sun does not give off light at all. The sun does not give off heat at all. The sun does not give off any of that. All it is a huge ball of electromagnetic energy. And heat, light, sound, all those things are simply manifestations of this energy on planet Earth. Which is interesting because we're also going to go into this part, that they say that light will not exist unless there is an eye for it to exist in. Unless we had our eyeballs, our retinals, we would not be able to see light at all. We wouldn't be able to see any of this at all. Without our eardrums, we would not be able to hear vibrations, okay? There would be no sound at all. It's nothing but energy, but it's manifesting itself with these different, whether you see it, whether you hear it, whether whether it's heat, you feel it as heat. It's nothing but an energy manifesting itself at a different rate of vibration. Remember, we learned with sounds and colors. Colors are traveling at tons and tons. And red has a longer wavelength than yellow, which is why it's darker in color, and it gives off a more of that physical nature, or like the physical type thing. And why even with our chakras, Muladhara, which is the chakra which connects us to the physical earth, that's represented by the color red, because just the properties that red gives, and red also is supposed to have a psychological effect on the mind, making you think a certain way or feeling a certain way psychologically. And it's also supposed to be connected with, sound. Okay, there's 7 major colors and there's 7 major sounds too, the 7 solfeggio. And since red is the longest wavelength for color, okay, red is also connected to that sound, which is the longest wavelength for that frequency. I don't know what frequency it is yet, but it's a slow, long frequency. And if you get an idea of it, it's something that would be deep or like a bass type thing in the background. Okay, the guitar would be shredding more on the higher frequencies, while the bassist is shredding more on the lower frequencies. Yeah, very, very interesting. Me and my brother were talking about that on the mountain the other day, and it's very cool. And then we were also talking about how thoughts manifest themselves through the conscious portion of the mind, and that the conscious mind itself does not create thoughts. It's something that came more from that, because in order for you to really hear something, you need to speak it. but thinking, like you can hear your own thoughts without speaking it, and the brain is part of the physical being, but what about that spiritual part of who we are? Okay, with all that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and continue with our introduction. We're going to read the introduction, part 1, and then we're going to stop this video, and then we're going to finish starting a part 2, so we don't have one that's like another hour long. So with that being said, let's go ahead and continue. And today, introduction, part 21, and it's my first time going over this part with you guys, so we're definitely excited about this. So let us begin. It is my privilege to enclose part 21. In paragraph 7, you will find that one of the secrets of success, one of the methods of organizing victory, one of the accomplishments of the master mind is to think big thoughts. In paragraph 8, you will find that everything which we hold in our consciousness for any length of time becomes impressed upon our subconsciousness, and so becomes a pattern which the creative energy will wave into our life and environment. This is the secret of the wonderful power of prayer. Now remember, the subconscious portion of the mind is the habit, the habitual part of the mind. Whatever thoughts we continuously hold within our consciousness for any length of time gets impressed upon the subconscious. It starts to become who you are. And when it becomes that pattern, pattern of creative energy. Wow. That's so funny because I just read energy patterns. I didn't read it to you guys. Hold on, I want to read this to you guys really quick. I just shared this on my Snapchat. I found my old journal, and I actually just read this. My very last login was of 12/09, and that was in 2015, almost last year. And I entitled this one Energy Patterns. And I kind of want to read this to you guys really quick. So, I have a few quotes in here by me, so hopefully you like it. Let's get started. So, quote, "There is a universal energy from which all things proceed, and this substance is a consciously living substance. This universal energy is intelligent and thinks, and manifests itself in all, as all, and through all. You and I are this substance," end quote. And that one is by Corey Anderson. So everything physical is a manifestation of this universal life principle. The plants, the trees, the birds, the ants, the rocks, the sand, the dog, the man, are all brought into being and given life from this one primal substance. The Bible calls it spirit, or God, if you will, because it creates and gives life to all creations. This intelligent energy is your intelligence. There is no other rule to this exception, that all things that exist within God, within this substance, are all perfect expressions and extensions of this universal intelligence. All is God. Do you not have your own intelligence? And that was the end of it. And then also ending it with another quote, which says, "Every creature is an embodiment of one universal source. Although inside we are all the same, we are seemingly individuals due to the mask we wear, and to our own personal created energy patterns," which we know our energy patterns are, without a doubt, our thoughts, our personal thoughts, whatever we're thinking continuously, our emotions, whatever we're feeling on a day-to-day basis, and our feelings, how when we actually emotionalize a thought, making us feel a certain way, because a thought by itself is dead. It's only until we call the emotions and vitalizing that thought with life and power that it actually becomes like a feeling, and it becomes an existence within ourselves. And once it exists inside of ourselves, then boom, it starts to take on and move outside of you. It becomes subconscious, and so becomes a pattern which the creative energy will wave into our life and environment, creating exactly what we want. This is the secret of the wonderful power of prayer. We know that the universe is governed by law, that for every effect there must be a cause, and that the same cause under the same conditions will invariably produce the same effect. Consequently, if prayer has ever been answered, it will always be answered if the proper conditions are complied with. So what if we try to apply this cause under different conditions? Because he's saying that for every effect there must be a cause. And we know that if every condition is the same, when we apply that same effect, we're always going to have the same cause. But what happens when the condition is different, when we try to apply the same cause? How different will the effect be? Consequently, if prayer has ever been answered, it will always be answered if the proper conditions are complied with. This must necessarily be true, otherwise the universe would be a chaos instead of a cosmos. The answer to prayer is therefore subject to law. This law is definite, exact, and scientific, just as are the laws governing gravitation and electricity. An understanding of this law takes the foundation of Christianity out of the realm of superstition and credulity and places it upon the firm rock of scientific understanding. But, unfortunately, there are comparatively few persons who know how to pray. They understand that there are laws governing electricity, mathematics, and chemistry, but for some inexplicable reason, it never seems to occur to them that there are also spiritual laws, and that these laws are also definite, scientific, exact, and operate with immutable precision. Jesus the Messiah was said to pray every day, and he's said to be a man of great manifestations, and he would bring things out of the ether, and how he brought forth bread out of, and he supposedly fed all these people. How did he do that? Like was there really only so much bread that had to be shared, amongst everybody? Well, obviously there must have been, but how on earth did that bread even get there in the first place? There must have been something vibrating on that specific rate in order to bring that bread to them. Remember the law of attraction, the vibrations, the spiritual, principle of how things work. When you're thinking, for example, how we were just saying, thinking is the only creative vibration there is. How you can literally think things into existence. Not only by the law of attraction, but also using your imagination. When you're imaging something, you're able to see something as it is before it's really tangibly there. That's one power that you have with your imagination. It's one power you have of your mind. Another thing with it is being, when the law of attraction comes into play, because when you're thinking these things, even when you're imaging it and thinking of that certain thing to create right here and then, you're also sending your thought vibrations out in every direction, and whatever that thought is vibrating towards, it's going to connect with other vibrations within the ether, and then those two are going to melt together, and by magnetism, they're going to be pulled together. That is how the law of attraction works. It's very a very interesting concept, and that's essentially what prayer is. You're forming your unity with whatever it is that you want to bring to pass. I know I mentioned I shared my kitten in another one of the videos, and I found out he's a boy, by the way. Yeah, my cat's actually a boy. But yeah, how I guess I ended up praying for a cat, because when I seen the stray of cats that night in the liquor store, I was just thinking intently, sincerely about how much I missed my cat, my old cat, and how much I wanted another one, and it's a very interesting thing. I had entered into that state of vibration. And lo and behold, the very next day, after I leave my college, when I went to the college I was going to school for, after I leave, when I was doing research on my way home, sure enough, this little high school kid comes up with 2 kittens in his hand, and I don't even say anything, and he walks up to me and says, "Do you want one?" He doesn't even say hi yet. He's like, "Do you want one?" And I'm just like, yes, yes, I do want one. Of course, I didn't say that. That's what I was thinking, oh wow, this is really happening, but I told him, I just looked at him and was like, hey, they're really cute kittens, and we had our conversations and whatnot, and then I ended up keeping one of them, and now he's with us today. But yeah, the power of prayer, entering into that state of vibration. We need to learn more how to do that. And that is the end of our introduction. We're going to go ahead and end this video, and then we're going to start part 21.